I want to start it off with a discussion with Kalil Merhib and Kim Blascoe. Come on up. Kalil and Kim are others who have been going strong. I think I left you guys around 10:30 last night. So thank you very much. Great to have you here, Kim.
Thank you.
Kalil?
Glad to be here.
So let's kick off the discussion talking about a framework and a methodology. We're going to be talking about that, audit methodology, but really when you think about the CAS line, that's what's happened over the past decade, in particular after the past 4 years. We've put together some real process and a methodology to kind of build success. So Kalil, why don't you kind of unpack this a little bit and give us some additional insights?
Yeah, Erik, CAS 2.0 is exactly that. It's a business model framework, methodology focused on enabling the transformation of the CAS practice area. Over the last 18 months, since we launched or introduced that framework, in particular in the last year, really seeing the marketplace starting to gravitate towards this framework and a lot of conversation happening between firms, solution providers, the entire ecosystem. And I think a big reason for that is people are really gravitating towards this because it's really a holistic way to talk about CAS in a context of a lot of the macro trends that we are talking about here at Digital CPA. So digital transformation, talent and upskilling, the move to advisory, client expectations, and it also really starts to help enable a mindset shift within firms as they think about their business model, bringing together not just the capabilities in CAS to deliver more client value, but also tapping into some of the other capabilities within the firm as well.
Well, thanks, Kalil. There really is. There's a lot of gold here in all of these, bullet points, and we want, these firms to be building these scalable, repeatable practices. And Kim, that brings me to you. I mean, you're someone who built a very successful CAS practice at Wipfli, and we're thrilled. We're thrilled that you've joined us, and this is something we're going to continue to build on. I mean, Kim's building out a team here. So just maybe a little bit about your background, and then how you're seeing firms innovating and leveraging this.
Excellent. Yeah, so June 1st, I joined CPA.com, coming from the practice side of the house. Prior to that, I spent 13 years at Wipfli as a partner, and of those 13 years, about 11 of them leading the CAS group that we had there, which was a fairly large group. And then my last couple of years, I moved over and built out a wealth and asset management industry with a couple other partners for the firm. So I've been involved in a CAS transformation, build and transformation, and also in an industry build. So pretty exciting stuff. I'll jump into, probably, from an innovation perspective, my hope is, Kalil mentioned the CAS 2.0 framework, and my hope is that firms are using the framework to address some of the things that we think they're struggling with as their CAS practices grow and scale. And then from we're seeing so many different opportunities from an advisory perspective in the market, right? So people are coming to firms to talk about, we want more advisory. So we're seeing that advisory practices within firms are making more intentional definition to the breadth of services that they have to offer. And so as an example of that, and then CAS is rolling up through advisory in a lot of firms now, which is great. I know, a lot of CAS leaders have talked about the struggle of where their CAS practices sit inside of their firms. And I think most everybody would like their CAS practices to roll up through advisory. So, then from an advisory perspective, we're looking at the practices that already exist in firms. And if you think about CFO services, so a lot of advisory practices already have a CFO service. And so now the firms are looking at it and saying, how do we take our CFO services that we have, merge it into our CAS practices so that we can offer fractional CFO services in our reoccurring method, right? So that's a big piece of it. And then the other part of it is I think we're seeing FP&A as a service emerge. And so now firms are trying to figure out how to standardize that whole process and make it repeatable so they can scale it.
Yeah, I think this is a very exciting evolution. Firms of all sizes, large firms, combining or connecting CAS and CFO advisory, bringing the FP&A function. And if you're a smaller firm, just kind of thinking about both of those service areas. So A lot going on there just on, strategy and practice evolution. There's a lot going on though, Kalil, with technology and kind of the power of really, moving even beyond the platform.
Yeah, that's right, Eric. I think that we're at a point now where there's a comfort with using cloud solutions, and the thing we're seeing next is really about the focus around the design of how these systems come together. And if we think about accounting traditionally, the process and the focus of the outputs, it's really on the what happened. And I think as we go into the future, that focus starts to become more on who, when, where, why, how, as well as what. And to get to that focus, though, it really needs to start with standardized data in a central location. And so from that perspective, you have to think about how data is structured today across the tech stack. You have ponds of data and the different solutions you're using, probably a spreadsheet here, a spreadsheet there. And really the focus needs to be starting to move that towards a central structure base. And then even in the context of AI, I think about that from just how to make those use cases of AI as powerful as they can be. Having structured data can be really a foundational piece of that. And when we start moving that direction, the other thing is it starts to enable faster validation of that data, faster review of that data, and really moving towards the continuous close, continuous business process, and enabling CAS practitioners to deliver insights and advisory in real time. So from that context, the design of these systems really matters a lot.
Yeah, and that's something that we're putting more and more effort into is, bringing out solutions with this integrated tech stack to help with the ultimate goal of this like continuous business cycle, the continuous close. So a lot of opportunity there. So Kalil, just a little bit more on how you think this will drive the advisory practice.
Well, sure. And just building on what Kim said about the focus of advisory, I think today firms are using business intelligence or BI tools to tell a story to a client about their business. But as advisors, I think the most important question you have to start with is asking your client, what story do they want to be told? And from that perspective, if you think back to just a data structure that helps focus on who, what, where, why, and how, you start to be able to be more confident in asking that question, knowing that you might not know the answer that you get. And so if you think about understanding the goals and objectives of a client and now having data that allows you to tap into whatever that story is, being able to go and curate the responses to that story that's already staged in that data versus having to go out and now assemble and maintain and try to do that and deliver that more quickly to respond to client requests, all of a sudden that starts to really shape the standardization of the way you deliver advisory. It starts to allow you to go deeper on operational transformation conversations with clients, financial transformation with clients, planning, and it allows you to talk to your client at the executive level all the way down to the manager level across their entire business. And so as that starts to happen, as firms are moving to advisory, really see this starting to impact CAS practices' ability to scale. And, in summary, it's really about moving from a client custom mindset to a production mindset, but without sacrificing the client experience. And I think that's going to make advisory much more approachable for more firms that are delivering CAS services.
Well, Kim, we're putting together a lot of resources related to these best practices. Maybe just, you've been only here since June, but you've been working hard on these.
It's been a hot 6 months, let me just tell you, and leading up to DCPA as well. So I'm going to tell a story, if that's okay. So back in 2017, when I was at Wipfli leading our CAS practice, I took the roadmap workshop that probably a lot of you in the room have taken. And I was like, it was in person, in Denver, 3 days, tons of knowledge, really super exciting, lots of information. We were exhausted, but really invigorated when we left. And I took one of my other partners with me. And we were like, oh my gosh, we're so excited to get back to the firm and do our thing and start our transformation and figure out what we're going to do. Well, then we got back, we did a few things, and we got busy, right? We were CAS leaders, we had books of business still, and everything kind of just sort of got set on the bookshelf, right? So about a year later, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. We're going to do this again. We're starting all over. And I reached out to my CPA.com rep and I'm like, okay, what can I do now? And at that time, she was like, well, we don't really have a next step. And I was like, okay, so this is a what did Kim want sort of story, right? Like what was our next step at that point in time? So when I came over to CPA.com and Kalil and I started talking about, what do firms really need? What is that next step from the roadmap workshop, which still has amazing content, but it doesn't really hold you accountable. It doesn't make you think through what your steps are and how you're going to get there. So we sat down, really took a step back, sat down and did a whole oversight of the content we had in the roadmap workshop, other workshops that we do as well, our assessment workshops, our FP&A workshops, and we thought about how can we help firms. So we sat down and developed a coaching program, actually a coaching and a consulting program, but the coaching program is very distinct, right? So we said, how long is it going to take us to do this? What does it look like? What is the content that we're going to work on? So we settled on an 18-month program, quarterly topics. We're doing group sessions. We're doing roundtables. One of the most valuable things that I have had as a CAS leader was that I belonged to a roundtable and I got to be able to bounce off all crazy ideas, good, bad, indifferent, all of the things that we were struggling with at Whippley to try to move forward our CAS practice. So we're going to do a roundtable and then we're going to do some one-on-one coaching. So we're going to do it by topic, by quarter. We're going to have homework. You're going to have goals that you're going to have to do. And we're going to work on mini execution plans. So as you go through the process, we'll keep you reintroducing new topics and then the old topics and how they collaborate together to get you to the point at the end of the 18 months where you have a full plan, you've worked through implementation on that plan. It never stops, right? It always goes, but at least you will have a very good groundwork to getting your CAS practice either transformed or off and running.
Well, Kim, thanks. A great story. And we always talk about how technology is the enabler and what we need. So the thing is, no one likes coaching. But it helps you drive your strategy forward and then to leverage these evolving technology capabilities. So this is awesome. Some great resources coming out. And Kalil, I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to add to kind of this initiative.
Yeah, I think Kim mentioned really the reflection on her experience building this practice. Right. And I think what we're trying to do, and Erik, you and I talk about this a lot, is really make sure that when we are talking to firms about where they need to lead their practices and how, that we're drawing that from real life experience. And, that practitioner perspective being shared from both sides of the table, I think really starts to cultivate a really deep conversation, but also a really great opportunity to inform some of the different initiatives that we have underway as well. And so this is just one example of those many initiatives, right. and Kim's expertise coming through in a way that really starts to help firms regardless of where they are in their journey in looking at CAS.
Well, thank you for both of all of your leadership. I do want to also mention that we're working on a lot of these, practice strategies and evolution of services with my good friend Lisa Simpson of the PCPS team, because they're also working collaboratively with us to help, transform the business model.